start with my, oh, here we go. So I'll start with my collage. So, oh wait, where are you? There you are. So there we go. I put like a whole plethora of stuff on here. So I'll start at like the top left. So you'll see the Ben's thinking chair. I added that because, well, kind of like one of the things that we were talking about, which was taking things and adapting them and using them for unmet needs. So that was like one of Ben Franklin's big go-tos. So he loved to take it in, and he was queen, or sorry, I was gonna say queen of invention, but he kind of was. He would take, he'd love to like fiddle with things and make things more useful for himself. So a lot of people tried to say that he invented the rocking chair, and that was absolutely not true. He did take, I like to call it the thinking chair. He called it, I think, the president's chair. But basically, he just created a stool that he could use in his library for getting up to high spaces and small spaces. So one of the things in Philadelphia is you don't have a lot of storage space. The way the construction is, you're tend to be very small space. So again, like thinking about, you know, intelligent design and being able to use something for more than just one thing. And that's really big out here for space saving. So created the library chair. Then I've got couch therapy. This one I really liked because I kept thinking the most famous seat that I could think of was Freud's chair. So this was the chair that was in his doctor's office. And it was just a very simple leather chase lounge, essentially, which he felt was too clinical. So for him, he felt it was really important to throw on his own aesthetic, and he literally put a throw rug onto it very famously, and it stayed on there, and it's still there. You can go tour it in London. But I always liked the inventiveness of wanting to have something that wasn't so clinical. He wanted it to feel more comfortable, and he wanted it to feel like a conversation. So he wanted aesthetically, he wanted it to feel texture wise and to look like something that would be a little more pleasing. So then I have, moving on to the far right top corner, the party privy, that's what I like to call it. So basically it was the original seating arrangement for the first public toilets. So in Rome, they would have these closed off spaces, have these long bench areas. A lot of times they would wrap around the entire room, and they were public toilets. Those, you could see the little receptacles. So a lot of the construction of those would have these like really strange, I mean, not really strange, but they would be kind of like the central platforms. And those were for your buddies hanging out with you. So you would go in as a big group, it would just all be men, and they would just kind of be hanging out. Like, so there would be like a central area with like some water that like probably really didn't want to use, but for, you know, just like styling yourself up. They really didn't think about, you know, the bacterial aspect. And back then they believed that a lot of germs came from you individually, and, you know, spirits and things like that. So I just thought that was kind of a grody, but kind of fun, like social seating arrangement that was specifically designed so that you could like hang out with your homies and like really just like sit back and not worry about that, you know, what you were actually doing. And it became more of a social thing. So then I have down to the far right, I really like this guy. I just randomly found him on the internet. I felt like we were kind of like spiritually connected, but this guy decided to make his chair his throne, right? So it was just, he's obviously a hunter. He was probably like whatchamacallit, fur trapper or something like that. So it was obviously all of the spoils of his harvest, and using some of his like what are the trophies from his gaming trophies. So I thought that was kind of a creative and very dark way to create like your own custom throne at home, which a lot of people do nowadays. Then you have the classic rocking chair. A lot of random internet factoids try to say that Ben Franklin invented the rocking chair, which is absolutely not true, because it would have been like 3 years old when I did the math. So I'll say that I kind of like the one date that I did find was 1725, originating in England. It was not invented in the United States, contrary to, you know, whatever ethnocentric person decided to put on Wikipedia. The first time it was in the Oxford Dictionary was 1787. So it had to have been at least a little bit before that. A lot of people believe it was back in 1707. That's when they try to say that Ben Franklin invented it. And that's like, he literally would have been 3 years old. So that's definitely not true. But I like the attitude about it. So then I have my Henry David Thoreau quote. I just like the idea. It's life is so simple when you have 3 chairs. If only life was that simple. And in the central, okay, so my weird image in the center was actually a blueprint from Frank Lloyd Wright. I forget the actual building itself. I want to say it's inside the Guggenheim. It's a concert venue he built. And in the center, it looks like an eyeball. That's kind of where I started doing weird tracing out of it. But in that central of the eyeball, it's actually the audience in the stage. And it was built kind of like a curve, but it fell inward. So I think it had something to do with the way that they were trying to engineer the sound. The idea is that if you're in the base of the bubble, then the sound would come over and it would be like you would be like enveloped by music. But in reality, for the person who's actually sitting in that middle little caved in seat, you have people on each side of you. It's extremely crowded. You are actually kind of like below sea level, so you can't really see the stage. And it's actually kind of like one of the most uncomfortable seats that I could imagine sitting in. Again, one of those things where we planned for the space, we planned for the investors, but we didn't plan for the person sitting in the middle row on the bottom chair. And it's just kind of one of those things where you can spend millions of dollars, but if you forget about that person sitting in the middle, then it doesn't really make sense. It's, again, one of those things where no matter how good you are, we can always find room for improvement. Okay, those were my weird images. I tried to go off the beaten path, as you can see. Okay. Tell me, can you see this? Can you guys see my chart?
No, I'm still seeing
it. Can't see it. Okay, hold on. There we go. Can you see that? Okay. Yep. Okie dokie. So I'll go down to the images. I feel like it'll be a little easier to see what I did. So I specifically decided to focus my matrix on public seating in the city that I live in. And this was actually from just 2 different parks on each side of where I live. So I kind of went with like the more, we'll go top left. I love the hammock. So of course that was like my #1. It's one they bring out all summer. It's a place called Spruce Street Harbor Park, and it's right along the waterfront. They open it up. It's kind of like trying to bring in like, urban renewal, like all these like kind of useless waterfront areas, kind of swampy. A lot of the developers have been buying them, and they're trying to like make green spaces in between these development areas. Spruce Street Harbor Park is one of them. They open it up every summer. I freaking love it. It's so much fun. It's super great. But again, this is kind of a weird one because it's not all year round here. So you have to think about the seasonal aspect. We have a lot of homeless in the city, and they can't leave the hammocks up all year round because we have code blue. So like we go below like a certain temperature, and it's just not safe for people to sleep outside. So the city does pull them at the end of the summer, which is such a freaking bummer because that's actually a really useful way to help people that are living in our city that are in between homes. So that's a moral dilemma aspect, but the hammocks can be helpful for that. Then I have the plastic beach chair. I'm labeled, actually, that was incorrectly labeled. Oh, there we go, the oversized chair. So the oversized chair is really cool to look at, built for tourists and completely useless, other than the fact that it's aesthetically pleasing and it brings in a lot of tourists. To build that thing, I can already tell you they paid way too much to have that thing built. I can't tell you exactly how much, but I could probably find out. The water hammock was probably my favorite because it's aesthetically not as pleasing as the hammocks. They're super fun to lay in, and they're literally right over the waterfront. So you can have these like little paddle boats going underneath you and stuff, and it's a really fun social way because like 6 people can hang out on them at once. So that was kind of a cool way to, again, bring in foot traffic, bring in tourism, help like, the urban green spaces, because you do want them full of people. Anyway, and that does help. But again, one of those things, super, super expensive to build, I'm sure. But once it's installed, you do have to worry about the maintenance and that sort of thing. Then going down, we have my natural Wissahickon bench. That one was my favorite because they use reclaimed wood when they're like bushing new trails out in the park. So, or when they have a tree go down, they don't just, kick it over to the side, they'll actually cut it up. They harvest some of the wood and they really do use it like for the rest of the park. They build fences, they do all kinds of cool stuff with that. So reclaimed wood, again, the score would be really high, just not aesthetically pleasing. We got our basic classic beach chair, works for every age, works for every body type, not the most comfortable to get out of, but it does the trick. Again, super not eco-friendly unless you're maybe reusing your plastic chairs every year until they completely fall apart, which most people probably aren't. I would say they get a pretty low grade just because the sustainability, or lack of sustainability, I should say. And then of course my top ranker was hammock, because it basically can be hung anywhere throughout the city. There's actually a lot of areas in the park that they'll build like actual standalone stands, so they're not reliant on the green space around. But again, I wish the city would use hammocks more, especially in Philly. They work really well, and it really does open seating for everyone. And it's safer for people who are in between homes to have a space, again, like not sleeping on the ground. So yeah. So overall, I went with my sustainability. That was kind of like the biggest thing I looked for all in all, and function. But my hammock won all in all, I think, just because of how cheap it was to make. So that was it for that. Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Next up. Good job.
Yeah, that was great. All right. You guys mind if I go next?
Sure.
Sure.
Cool. All right. Let's see. Okay, can everybody see that all right?
Mhm.
All right, so for the collage portion of this, I did mostly like Google searching and kind of just like tried to think of like a variety of different types of seating to kind of show like the range of functionality, even though it's like the same basic function of like a place to sit, there's other elements to the function, like in all these public seating areas, you have like some social aspects and collaborative aspects, like relaxing can be kind of a function. If you look at like this picture here with the statue, this is kind of like a social gathering place. So there's like a lot of social utility and stuff like that that can also be embodied in the seating area. You got examples of transportation. So like your run-of-the-mill airplane sardine kind of feeling seats, or like your crazy souped up Hello Kitty car, so like a lot of variety, even though they're both for transportation. This one, obviously these people were really concerned with the aesthetic component and happen to like pink, I think. And then like the airplane is very much just function focused. I don't know, kind of gives an aesthetic sense of like uniformity, but that's, I guess, doesn't really appeal to me too much. I feel like the aesthetics were less of a focus on that one and mostly just focused on function. I tried to pull some stuff from the lectures, like the IDEO mantra and kind of their little process of question, solve, test, reflect, and refine, and kind of that iterative design process. And then I also liked that the end of that Steve Jobs quote that was in the lectures as well, because it's something that I kind of agree with. Like, as you travel and experience the world and see more and more things, it kind of broadens your own perspective on the human experience, and therefore you're able to apply all that knowledge to your design process. So I like that idea. Kind of down here in the bottom right, there's a few pictures, just like examples of how seating can create a sense of place. This one is, there is a little seating area down here, but it's also like kind of like a cob home type deal, with a lot of repurposed materials and stuff like that. This one on our upper right is actually in like a camper van. So that's like a traveling seating area, but they still managed to make it look pretty nice and pretty like comfortable and inviting, even though there's not, you know, the constraints on your space and stuff are pretty significant in a situation like that. I really like this one on the kind of bottom middle, where it's like these recessed seating areas that are like kind of in the water. I don't know how sustainable or I don't know much about it. I just thought it looked really cool. So I figured I'd throw that on there too. And then over here, I've just got like examples of different chairs that were kind of like mostly focused on the aesthetic or the ambiance, and sometimes like communication, right? So like a throne kind of sends like a message of like, this is a, you know, place, a seat of power or something along those lines. But it's also got like obviously a lot of aesthetic elements incorporated in that as well. They paid a lot of attention to detail, you know, with like dragon heads and stuff like that. And there's all kinds of different styles of that. This bottom one, I think they used riveted aluminum from like old warplanes and reused some of the materials and made these like kind of like egg-shaped chairs. So I kind of like the recycling reusability aspect on that. And that's pretty much it for the collage. Let's see. And then for my design matrix, can everybody see this okay? Groovy.
Yes.
So like half of these probably are from my house. And then the other half are from like parks and just like downtown area. So, and then I did like a total and like a percentage just because I wanted to. So I'm a nerd like that. So this chair, this first one, I was like pretty surprised by this because I just picked a bunch of different things that were in my day-to-day life. And this is not my favorite chair. Like I do love it, but it's not like the most comfortable thing to sit in, but it's really cool. It's got like this big, probably kind of hard to see, but it's got like this big goddess face like carved into the back, and then like a little bit of work on both of the arms. And I usually keep like a blanket in it to kind of aid in the comfort aspect. But it actually scored the highest on my matrix here. For a number of reasons. It is like from like like most of my furniture is either secondhand or like refurbished. This one was refurbished by the place that we bought it from. But like this bench over here is one that I reupholstered and did. And it was like gonna be thrown away, and I was like, yeah, I can use that. Make it, you know, I threw some paint on it and stuff like that. Pretty simple, but effective. These dining room chairs are cool, but I don't like eat in the dining room really. I don't use them that often. So they're like some of the biggest factors for me were the sustainability, the function, and then the social impact for the ones that are more like public spaces, like that could carry a lot of weight depending on what you're trying to use that seating for. So, you know, and comfort also played a part, but I was surprised that it didn't matter more in my like calculations, I guess. The couch is obviously pretty comfortable, but not necessarily like super aesthetically pleasing or anything like that. It's just a couch. it's good. It had pretty good social utility because it like kind of fosters an environment of like sitting together, looking at each other and speaking with each other. So again, I think it like shows a little bit more social utility in that area. My office chair is pretty functional. That's what I'm sitting in right now. The bench in the vestibule, again, it got a pretty high score on like environmental impact and stuff like that, because it's reused. And it wasn't a particularly high production cost in the beginning, you know, it's like mostly pine wood and a little bit of fabric, some foam. But it also serves a function of like kind of being our shoe storage place. Outdoor patio seating, that one also had a pretty high like social utility because that is kind of a gathering space for us, even though it's pretty cheaply made, not very sustainable, but it serves its purpose pretty well, and it does promote kind of that social component again as well. This public bench was just like downtown, kind of on a sidewalk, just right off the street. So I don't know. I kind of was curious about these because I don't see people use them all the time. Usually people are walking past. A lot of times our homeless population does kind of hang out on them, use them, which is cool. And they're like fairly comfortable, but they are, you know, made of metal. They have to be outside all the time. So they're like bolted down. They're not, and not super aesthetically pleasing either. Similar thing with these park benches here. Although these are more for, this is kind of like a natural protected area, in a little park, public park in my town. So this is like kind of a viewing area. So it had a little bit more, I don't know, I guess a little bit more utility, because it has a different purpose. And I do see a lot of people like sitting and taking time on these. The public picnic tables, these last three images are all from the same park. But they all are a little bit different and serve slightly different purposes. The picnic tables are good, but like cheap to make, not very comfortable, not very aesthetically pleasing either, but they serve their function well, and they do promote like a lot of socializing and stuff like that, and have a lot of social utility. And then for the last one, this stone bench kind of on the left of this picture, I feel like it was really, I don't know, if to give you a little bit of perspective, there's like nothing else around here other than this statue and like a plaque, which you can't really read from the bench. The plaque is back here, and then there's another one off to the right. But I think it was mostly just to like draw attention and draw the eyes to this kind of commemorative statue area. But I laid on it, sat on it. It was not super comfortable because it's a rock, but you could definitely sit there. I wasn't really sure what the function of it was, because it's not in an area that you would normally like be like, oh, I'll take a seat here, especially when there's like, I mean, these picnic tables and these other benches were like 50 to 100 feet away from that area. So like, if you could sit here and have a view, or sit here and on a rock, I don't know. I feel like I'd choose the view, but maybe that's just me. And that's pretty much it. I kind of, some of these KPI on here, I kind of had to guess on, like, you know, I wasn't sure exactly, without doing more research. I'm not totally certain the environmental impact of like this public bench versus these park benches. I think these guys are a little bit better because they use a like compressed, kind of like a Trex composite material that's like recycled stuff that's compressed together for the boards. So I think I gave those a slightly higher environmental score. But yeah, some of these facets, my main takeaway from this was like these different KPI and these different facets can be weighted differently, probably based on what project you're working on or what specific function you're trying to meet. So yeah, I guess that's my matrix. All right.
Good job.
Thanks.
I guess I can go next. Let me share it. I threw all of my stuff in a PowerPoint because I did both projects on a different device and neither of them have a camera. Let me go this. Okay. So this first one is obviously my collage. I kind of just, when I thought of a chair design, I didn't necessarily think of like the transportation and whatnot. I more so thought of household chairs and like kind of how we're designing them now. So you can kind of see over here, I have more modern design stuff we wouldn't necessarily see in a house, but maybe in a museum or just stuff more so for fun. As we kind of move over, it gets more to practical seating. And then at the bottom, it's more creative stuff that you could still see in a house, but also more, oh my goodness, antique seating, some older styles of chairs that we might not necessarily see as often anymore. And then down in the bottom left, I have the design process right here, some sketches, designs that might go into making the seating, and then obviously a color wheel, just because I feel like it's getting more and more common to play with brighter colors in seating options and any kind of design. And I just have some quotes that I found through while I was searching for stuff. So design is thinking made visual, the principle of the design, the harmony, rhythm, and balance. And then at the bottom, I have design as a process for making things right, for shaping what people need. And then in the center, which is kind of what I feel like this class is sort of based around, especially this project. Creativity is inventing, experimenting, growing, taking risks, breaking rules, making mistakes, and having fun. Yeah, I didn't have that much thought process like you guys did behind that, but I just kind of thought it was fun to explore the different designs and types and thought process that go into making seating. So, and then here is my matrix. So I did 5 things. I'm also in the middle of nowhere. So the only thing I really have is a school and the park around me. So I have a hammock, bench, picnic table. This swing is actually from my backyard, and then bleachers. So the hammock is not that comfortable at all, but more so comfortable than the other seating I chose. And I feel like it was kind of a scale based off of what I had rather than comparing it to a lot of other things. So it used nylon cords and then metal sort of bearings. I know I'm using the wrong word for that. And then some wood, obviously. So the nylon isn't like super terrible, but it's definitely not the best of the materials I have. So that's why I ranked it a little. The way I did environmental impact was the lower it was, the worse it was for the environment. I definitely think I did that backwards, but that's how it was done in mine. Next, I had a bench. This was just a metal bench found in the park. Not very comfortable at all. Made out of metal. I don't know. I don't really know the cost of that, but definitely a little more expensive than one made out of wood or whatnot. The safety, pretty safe. I would honestly find it very hard for somebody to fall off of that, unless you are maybe a 3-year-old child. Pretty sustainable. You're not going to have to do much work for it. It functions well enough, other than sitting and staring at a field. It was kind of overlooking like a football soccer area. So don't know. Next I had a picnic table. This, I'm gonna guess it's metal made with like the like rubber coating around it. It wasn't comfortable either. I sat on it for a little bit, did some work, looked at the park and whatnot, and I was not having a fun time there. A little more costly than the bench, a little less costly than the hammock. The environmental impact, not terrible. The rubber obviously isn't good for the environment, so it ranks a little lower. Safety, you could fall backwards off those chairs pretty easily. Social impact, it is very like park centered. Families gather there, they eat there, whatever. It works well for them if they want to have lunch or dinner or breakfast or what, a meal. And then next I have a swing. This is all made out of wood, and then it just has metal chains. Overall, it's wooden, so it's not that comfortable, but it has like a curve in the back and then on the bottom. So it's a little bit more comfortable than the flat bench and picnic table. Definitely better for the environment since it's made out of mostly just wood. Safety, solid 7. It has the sides on it, swings, can't swing too high because it'll break. Not very sustainable because the wood will rot eventually, and then you'll have to replace parts of it or it'll just break and you won't do anything. It has not a very good function because there's really no point other than for it to be there and look pretty. We honestly don't use it that much. It's just because my mom likes it that we haven't gotten rid of it. And then lastly, I have bleachers. These are, in my opinion, the worst out of everything I have on this sheet. They're not comfortable. When you're on them, you're probably sitting around a bunch of other sweaty parents because it's hot outside and you're playing in the heat. Pretty terrible for the environment. It's just a bunch of metal, like so much. It's kind of ridiculous. It's not safe either. I've fallen down them before. I've seen people fall down them before. Pretty sustainable though. There's not much maintenance you have to do after it's created, and it is used very often because games take place, so it has a pretty high function and social impact. It's definitely not aesthetically pleasing though. We see them everywhere. But yeah, that's about it for mine.
Nice.
I can go next if we want. I'm not great with technology though, so this might take a second. All right, it's saying if I share, it won't let me record. Let's see if it'll. Oh, is it showing?
There we go. Yeah.
All right. So I based my entire collage pretty much around egg chairs, or like the same idea of it. So I threw at the top the design process because I really like just the aesthetic of this and how it worked, and it never really ends, so you can go back to any stage of it. I have the hanging egg chair over here, which I thought looked really comfortable, and I just kind of love the idea of hammocks, especially as a kid. We always had them. My dad has one in my yard right now, and like I just love going down to relax in those. So I thought that was just like a cool idea because you can have this even in your house. It's more of an indoor type design for here. This one is how they drew and designed a standing egg chair instead of a hanging one. This one was also made of like a wicker with a cushion in it. And so was this one, but they're both two different designs. I liked this because it was all black and white, except it has like the chair popping in it, which I thought was really cool. Because you kind of get the whole process of the room and the chair, but the chair is the focus, even though it's so small. Over here we have I don't really know why I like this chair, but I thought it was cool just how it was built, the wood, the leather, the legs being at an angle. And then I got the garden down here with like a little chair. Does not look comfortable at all, but I think it looks really cool. And then this almost like hammock type egg over water, which you can just read in. I don't know how you get in it, but I thought that would be really relaxing because you can just kind of be in nature but be comfortable, and it's almost like a little house. And then I threw in a couple quotes that I really liked, and one was Steve Jobs, and it's design is not just what it looks like and feels like, design is how it works, which is so true because you can design the coolest thing, and if it's not functional, it's just pointless. And then design must reflect in practical and aesthetic in business, but above all, good design must primarily serve the people, which I thought that was also a great quote by Watson, because again, it's pointless if it doesn't do what you need it to and if it doesn't help people. So that was kind of how I based my collage around. And then for my computer's so glitchy today. There we go. For my seating, I did pictures around where I live, on a college campus that I work at, Starbucks, and my house. So the first one I did was the patio chair, and it's like super wide. The rope is almost like a plastic rope. So it seemed pretty sustainable. Don't know how much it would cost though. But I don't think it would be very much. And then it was just like a simple metal frame, and it's way more comfortable than it looks. And then the next one I have was in, let's see, this one was the college campus, and it's in a coffee shop. It's just like this leather with a little bit of cushioning, but it has that same idea of the egg chair where it kind of like goes up slightly and holds you in, and it's very comfortable. It's also very social, I thought, because and safe, because you sit there, there's like multiple of them together, and you can sit and talk with your friends or sit there and do work. And then the next one was in a Starbucks, and it's like a high top chair. You can't really see the height of it, but there's no back to it. And I thought that was just an atrocious design because it's not safe. Like you can't lean backwards. It's not comfortable. They slide really easily all over the floor, and it's just a piece of wood. So it seems pretty solid. Like I think it's pretty sustainable once you make it, but it's definitely not comfortable. And I hated sitting in there. I refused to and avoided it at all costs. The next one is my wooden swing that my dad built when I was a kid. And we've had that easily over 12 years. And we've never had to do anything to it. Like it just hangs on the tree. It's just a piece of wood. It was recycled wood. So I say very sustainable. It's lasted. The rope has lasted. Our neighbors use it now. They have a bunch of kids. Like they love it. Not very safe though. You can't, if you let go of the rope or lean, you will fall right off. Or if you swing too high, you'll just fall off. It's not fun. But if it's used properly, like it's pretty safe. And then the last one is a bistro chair on our front porch. And it is the most uncomfortable thing I think I've ever sat in. The back of it is metal, and it's supposed to be shaped like a heart. Definitely built for aesthetics, and it's a solid piece of flat wood. It is the most uncomfortable thing. You can't lean against the back of it. It'll just stab your spine. I really don't know why we still have it other than looks, but I'm not sure it's really the greatest. Overall, I added up the totals, and the patio chair actually came in at the highest, which I wasn't too surprised about, but it definitely doesn't look comfortable. And that was pretty much all for them.
Good
Sweet,
stuff.
good job. Yeah. So I guess I could go next. So when I was making this stuff, I kind of, can you guys see just fine? So I kind of chose some chairs that are pretty like more relevant in my life. Pretty much starting on the top left or all these lounge chairs. As you guys know, I just went and took engagement pictures. So we're like talking about houses and stuff. And I'm always doing homework at this point. So I'm always in a house, always in one of these chairs, just doing homework. So I kind of just, I was thinking about this because when you're in a home, you want to be comfortable and you want to feel like in a space where you can just feel welcomed and relaxed. So I really enjoy that. One of my favorite things to do is to relax and just hang out and do something. But when I'm at home, I want to be comfortable as well. All of these chairs don't seem to be very costly on here that are from in home spaces. So there's that. And then another thing that's been extremely prevalent in my life is gaming. So these gaming chairs, this one up here on the top left and this one on the bottom right, they're both extremely comfortable. I'm sitting in a gaming chair right now. I didn't take a picture of, but they're extremely comfortable. Most of the time, they're very, very costly. Probably some of the most expensive chairs you could buy. At the same time, they are very, very good in their functionality. So this chair is actually very interesting. It's not it's not the most safe in the world, but so up here, they have speakers usually built in. Up here, you can see kind of the white up here. So that's a speaker. It's really cool. And you can plug in all of the stuff that you need on the side. So you have stuff for headphones, stuff to connect to your computer, your console, your TV, whatever you're using. And you can get vibration in the chair, you can get the sound, everything. And it's right there, it's booming. It kind of makes it feel like you're in a theater where everything's just right there. It's extremely loud, just kind of overwhelming kind of. At the same time, it's extremely comfortable. You guys can see the material. It's leather, kind of plushy a little bit in both of these chairs. This one is kind of more for sitting up at like a certain area, not nearly as relaxed, but you can change that. So you have paddles on the bottom, so you can change how far you lean back, how high your chair is, and on the same side, you have the sides, you can move the arms wherever you want. So in terms of functionality, it works extremely well. And same thing, it's extremely comfortable. And then I have these two kids chairs on here because I grew up I would always sit in these chairs when I was younger. At my mom's house, I actually still have one of these, and sometimes I go back and I sit in it. It's for kids. They're the same kind of material, kind of plushy. I can't think, they absorb a lot of everything, so it's extremely safe. It's very hard to fall out of these, and if you do, you can't get hurt because they're not very big. So that's why I put those on there. And then at my nana's house, or grandma, if you guys don't know that, she has a lot of antique chairs and stuff. So I thought that this is pretty extremely cool antique chair that I found online. It's looks like it's fairly comfortable. It looks like you have some cushion on the back and on the seating area. I think it's aesthetically pleasing. I know I probably wouldn't have this in my house because obviously modern stuff, but at the same time, I think it's cool. So if like maybe I could picture it being in like a castle or something at this point, but as far as function, it gets the job done. You can sit down at a table in it or wherever it is, and you can eat, or you can relax or converse with other people in it. And then I just put the design principles over here because it's pretty basic stuff about what you need to be able to come up with new ideas and how to do that. And then moving forward to my matrix, I don't think I did that right here. So stop that. My matrix, I think it's showing. Is it showing? Okay, so the matrix, sorry, it's very small. Same thing, I kind of chose places that are extremely prevalent in my life right now. First off, I chose a lot of seating areas around my church because if I'm not home doing homework, I'm usually going to church because I don't really get time to do much else besides work. and go to church. So first off, I chose the sanctuary seating up here. I think they are probably the most one of their biggest impact or the best quality of them is their sustainability, and they're relatively cheap, probably some of the cheapest chairs you can get. You can buy them in bulk. And then for sustainability, I mean, they're like a interesting kind of plastic to where they won't get destroyed by anything, any water. They're not the most comfortable in the world. When I'm sitting in these Sunday morning, I'm very fidgety. I can't really sit there, and I'm always changing my position. So as far as comfortability, that they're not the best, but I think that they do serve a good function as far as providing a lot of seating in a place where people want to feel on the same level, and listen to the pastor speaking up front. So we have the lounge seating of the church out in the front. So this is just an area to converse with people before and after church, or you can go and eat if they have meals beforehand over here at these seating areas. I think as far as sustainability, they're very, very, very good. You can't really, they won't break on it unless like you're sitting back or anything. They're relatively safe. They're tough to fall off of unless you're probably a little child or maybe just goofing off with your friends around them. I've seen people fall off of them, and they serve as the function well. I mean, they're pretty open on the sides, and I mean, in front of you as well, so you can kind of turn and talk to people as they walk by and whatnot. So I also have the outdoor seating of the church, which are more like picnic tables, which aren't the most comfortable again, but at the same time, they get the job done out there. So they are sustainable. They've been through, we don't get much rain here, but they've gone through rain and all of that and the extensive heat, and they have been there for years as far as I can remember. There's nothing that's going to take these things down. And same thing, the function, they're extremely good at what they are designed for, which is to have people sit in a circular area and converse while they're either eating or just hanging out or whatnot. So, and then we're going towards the lounge chair. So this chair was out in, so I pretty much hang out at my fiance's house most of the time, but this is in her kind of like a lounge area in the dining room. It's interesting the way the house is set up, but they, what I've noticed, they are not very sustainable because of the material. They fall apart very easily. They kind of get stringy and stuff, and especially if you have pets, or in their case, they have cats, they always like to claw, and they always get ripped up, and they won't last very long. They are extremely comfortable though. For dinner, my fiance's dad sits at it all the time, and I feel like it's very nice because all of us were sitting in these stiff chairs, and he sits in this because they only have 4 chairs. But he sits in this, and he is lower than everybody, but afterwards he can just lean back and just kind of relax. So they are very good for relaxing. I will say sitting in them is extremely nice. They are very comfortable. Probably like you pay a decent amount of money, not too much. If you're looking for something comfortable, then it'll get the job done. And then last but not least, this is in the lounge area I was talking about. So this previous chair, this is where this was in their house. But they got kind of switched it up because the cat just tore these chairs apart, and it was about time they wanted to change up the look in their house. So as far as comfortability, personally, I don't think they're comfortable at all. The material is very rough, like it's kind of hard material, so it doesn't give you any cushion. They are extremely safe. They I mean, they get the job done, like they give you a place to relax. And I think aesthetically, they are aesthetically pleasing. So if you put it in the right spot with the right things, I think it can look extremely nice. Yeah, I kind of didn't do any totals, but I feel like looking at it, I'm kind of like a math guy. I kind of looked at it a little bit, didn't type it down, but this lounge chair did come out to be the best, although it can get probably destroyed the most among here, probably just because it's good for its function and relaxing and comfortability, and it's relatively cheap. And with that having been said, that is all I have.
Nice.
All right. I think I'm the last one, right? Yeah. Okay. Can you guys see them? Okay, so first I'm gonna start off with my collage. For this, I just decided to incorporate a bunch of different chairs that I liked online, as well as just that we see in everyday life. So I included like normal seating chairs on the top left, and then we got like a wedding chairs like that you could take everywhere. Just a bunch of like regular everyday life stuff, like a bench, stadium chairs, picnic areas. And then I decided to include different words that we could use to describe chairs. So I used comfortable, accessible, easy, and supporting, because that's obviously what chairs do. And my dad actually did multiple classes of design, and I showed him this quote in the center, and he told me that that was a quote that he used frequently when he was learning about design, especially with chairs. And he said, or it says, a good chair is the nesting ground of a genius. So yeah, basically not very much significance behind it. Just wanted to include a bunch of chairs that we would usually see in everyday life. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that. So let me. Okay. And then this is my seat design matrix. Can you guys see it? Yeah, okay. So basically I decided to take a bunch of pictures around my house and around a park that was near me. As you can see, I got a couch, a picnic table by this nearby park, a park bench as well, like a desk gaming chair, the car seat, table chair, a hammock, a bar stool, the inside little bench, and then a regular like foldable lawn chair. Obviously the couch is really comfortable, but it costs a lot. The aesthetics pretty nice. The chair it has chargers on the inside. It also has a really cool cooler in one of them. So I thought that it was really functioned very well. It did what it needs to be. The only thing is it's obviously not very good for the environment, only if it's using like recyclable materials. But anyways, we got a picnic table. Basically what everyone else said. I mean, it does its job. It's there for the park to eat, for kids to chill in, for you to sit. So it does its job. It's just pretty old bench. I mean, it just stays there. Or table. The next thing is a park bench. Same thing. You can use it, sit there. It's pretty sustainable. Then we got a desk chair, which was personally my favorite, just because you can move it everywhere. You can use it all the time. I sit there to do my homework. Yep. And then a car seat, obviously useful. It's pretty safe. It just costs a lot of money because it's in a car. We got a table chair. I like these chairs just because they have a cute like little padding on the bottom, so it's not like super uncomfortable. It's also pretty safe. Like you guys said, the only way is if like you were leaning back and fell, or like a little kid fell off of it. Then we got a hammock. Love the hammock. It just chills in my backyard. But I love to sit in it, chill outside. Then we got a bar stool. It also has really nice padding on it as well, so I think it's pretty comfortable. The only thing is it doesn't have a back, but we use it all the time. You can move it. Then we got an inside bench, which has like one of those openings that you can put stuff in. I think it's pretty useful. It keeps a lot of stuff in there, like storage. Also, it's comfortable, has pillows, pretty nice. And the last thing I got is like a regular foldable lawn chair. Ours are clear, which is pretty cool. But pretty sustainable. They're not really comfortable at all, but you can move them everywhere. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome.
you do, is it, how do I stop sharing? Is it the pause share or stop share?
Yeah, you should be able
That
to
one?
go to the top. There you go.
There we go. Okay, thank you.
Nice. So let's see. For the summary part, let me see if I can find it. I've got it open somewhere. All right, here we go. So these three questions are kind of the ones that we're supposed to be thinking about for as we like reflect on our whole process as a group. And I kind of started writing stuff for the summary. I figured we could kind of work on this over the next like day or two.
Mhm.
And we can all kind
Mhm.
of put our contribution on there, and then we'll submit it. I think it's due Thursday. But
Mhm.
check that. So like 3 lessons learned. I don't know, like one thing that one of my big takeaways was kind of like the idea of like form follows function, like and I think a lot of us touched on this a little bit, like if the chair doesn't serve like the right purpose, then there's not, even if it's really pretty, if it doesn't like, meet the needs of what it's trying to meet, then it's not very practical or reasonable. So I think that that's just like a really big thing to kind of keep in mind. And if you can round out your perspective with by trying to like question all those, what is the function? Who is this for? Like Rosie, I know the auditorium that you kind of talked about in your collage, that was really, really cool and kind of highlighted that for me too, seemed like a really cool space, but it sounds like maybe it wasn't actually that functional for what it's trying to do.
Yeah, well, it was like one of those concepts that like I started looking at the designs of it, and then I just came across this like one little super snide, angry editorial from like a local New Yorker who was like, "This is the worst seating, and this is why," and went on like a tirade about it. But their arguments were actually sound. I read through it, and I was like, aesthetically, like in comfort wise, if you say you weren't comfortable around people, the idea of having someone falling into you on each side would be kind of miserable.
Yeah.
So I could see where they're coming from, and it's like, okay, well, I could tell you that I believe that the architect, he died not too much longer after the construction. I'm pretty sure. So I'm going to say and jump out on a limb and say that he actually never got a chance to sit in that seat and experience what it would have sounded like, because he might have felt a little differently or might have tried to adapt it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's awesome. And that was,
everyone has room for improvement, right?
That was Frank Lloyd Wright, you said, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Anybody else like a lesson or anything like that?
I would definitely say, like, I don't know how much this really answers it depending how you're reading it, but everyone views design different. Like, no one's going to have the same idea, because every single one of us, like, we have the challenges, like they're kind of vague, and you can really take it anywhere you want. So I feel like it's very purposeful. But every single one of our collages was set up very differently. It had a very different purpose to each of us, but it all got the job done, and we were able to show what we needed to show, and it kind of showed our process of thinking in the process of that.
Totally.
Yeah, it felt pretty subjective, like it's like perspective, because it was like I felt like personally I was like, oh, it's all like function. Like I want something that it functions for a very specific purpose, for a specific reason, a specific like clientele, and like it can be so different from like a seat like right next to it. And like out here, it was like there's just too much. Like the only way I could narrow it down is like some weird function. Like let's pick some of the oddball ones. Like I wanted to see some weird shapes and things like that, but it's so vague, right? Like it's really just kind of like, maybe I want to look at aesthetics, maybe I want to look at ergonomics, like, you know, maybe I want to look at all these different things, and it's any one of those can be like a whole freaking career of just designing in that one aesthetic or that one specific niche. Yeah, it's pretty open-ended. I was almost worried.
Yeah, same.
Just like there's just so much. I don't know. Where do we go with it?
Mhm.
I agree. It did feel very subjective.
Yeah, I find that also kind of plays off of like region, which is another thing. Like I'm out in Indiana, I'm surrounded by farmland. So mine was like the local park I have by me. Rosie, I'm not sure where you're from, but like yours was very like there was a lot of outdoor areas and a lot of tourist stuff going on. So it was cool to see.
But it's a weird mix though. And you're right. It's like, what is accessible around? Like you go to a school, like, right? Like if that's what's available, like, and I feel like, okay, like I have a park like directly across like literally my front yard is like a public park. But otherwise, like I'm in the middle of a pretty congested, pretty heavily urbanized area. But then I also have the Wissahickon, which is this weird, almost like a national park next to me. But the functions are so different. Like, you know, you can't have a hammock out there. I mean, unless you're like camping or something. But like out in the city, it's like it's a weird one because I love it and I love seeing them, but aesthetically, it only works in the summer, and it safety wise. And like, it just doesn't work any, you know, in the winter time, you can't have hammocks hanging from all the trees. So it just doesn't form its function, you know, it doesn't serve it like half of the year. So that's kind of like a bummer.
Cool.
Oh, have you guys thought about your chair designs yet?
A little bit, but nothing concrete.
So I got a tattoo the other night and I sat around and I was talking with the tattoo artist and we were just talking about, I was like, guys, I'm really bad at this. I might have you draw it, but they're not going to do it. But like, so bad at, I was like trying to think about like how I would start with it. And I started getting off the rail with the hammock idea. I was just like obsessed. And it kind of made me think of, Ellie, there was I think it was in yours or no, maybe it was in Katie's, but it was almost like the swing hammock chair thing over the water. And it was like, you always see it in like social influencers that like travel professionally and like they're always in like some crazy location, or they're always popping up on my Instagram and like getting at like they're eating breakfast or drinking coffee in one of those things. And I'm like, I don't even know how you got into it. Like, I just don't feel like it'd be like a weird feeling. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable. I think I'm too claustrophobic for those because it would be like a fetal cocoon or something. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like it's such a weird like space. But again, like I wish someone would have something like that on their front porch out here. They really don't. They really prefer milk crates, and that should have been one of my seating choices. Because front stoop people are like really crazy about their milk crates out here.
Milk crates can work pretty well.
In a bowl, right?
Yeah.
You can use it as a shelf. You can use it as a chair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe. But yeah, all right. Well, it came down to 4 of us. Did Daniel leave?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, you're here. Oh, there. Sorry.
Yeah,
I minimized my page. Sorry. I cut you off. There you are. Hi, guys.
I think we're all here.
But yeah.
I felt similarly about the egg kind of shaped chairs and like especially like the hammock ones that are like fully enclosed. It looked like all of those chairs are just like trying to give you a hug.
That's always feel like the bat wing chairs. Is that what they're called? But like the big, I have one in my living room. I have a couple of them, but like they come up and they kind of cocoon you on the side.
Yeah.
But I always get nervous in them because I feel like they kind of curve off to the side here on each side.
Yeah.
And like the wingback chairs, right? And then, but when you look over, it like takes away your peripheral vision, and I just don't like it. I feel like it reminds me of like something you see in front of a fireplace and ominously, and you're walking around slowly to see who's sitting in it. And it's never who you want it to be. But
It's
yeah.
like super villain.
Yeah, very super villain. But yeah, there was another one. Wait, something else that popped up. Oh, I really did you guys get to Samuel Mockbee yet? It's kind of random, but it was the guy that like the architect that designed for poor people basically in
Yeah.
Alabama, and like rebuilt all these
Mhm.
neighborhoods and stuff. And I was like absolutely obsessed. And I really want to do that here.
Yeah.
I just want to basically go to all the richest architecture firms and shame them. And I want to show them what they did there and just be like, shame, shame every day until they just start building stuff for everyone else. Maybe
Mhm.
that'll work. I have no but yeah, I really wish they would do that here. It would be extremely, extremely useful. I mean, some contracting companies do try to do that to a very small degree out here.
Yeah.
They do like, will try to step in, help people renovate in like pretty, I don't know, like areas that are like up and coming because all the developing companies bought out, you know, all the excess properties. So then
Mhm.
you have these like super poor, but like homeowners that like own the bricks to their house. So like contracting companies can step in sometimes and help, but
Yeah.
I mean, they're not doing what they are doing like down there. Although I think they should be doing more. I mean, in general, but
Yeah.
I think talking about that though, like I think it's hard because I feel like those kind of people that like don't have the money and the time to like worry about that kind of stuff, like they don't care about like what it looks like, you know, like as long as it serves its purpose, you know. So yeah, I mean, it's really tough in that situation because I mean, like yesterday we went looking for houses and it's like there are like these areas that are really nice and right next to it are areas that are just awful. And it's like these people just like don't care, you know? And like it doesn't matter, like it could be designed like the prettiest in town, but if the people don't care about it, they're not going to take care of it.
well, and it's a lot of times it's like, it's not that they don't care. It's just, they just don't have the finances to get started on it. You know what I mean? Like people will take care or like do maintenance and stuff, but it's a lot. Like
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're trying to like, you know, get by. I mean, I don't know personal circumstances, but there are a lot of people that it's a big problem. You see that a lot out
Yeah.
here. Because it'll
Yeah.
be like rows and rows and rows of streets, and it will be like a half a block to a half a block, and where
Mhm.
like I would live there, but 3 doors down I would not. And it's
Yeah.
it just is such a chameleon, like,
Yeah.
and it
Mhm.
changes like with the real estate, and it's a big social dilemma out here because
Oh, yeah.
the people who, I feel like it's not so much homeowners, it's renters. They're the ones
Yeah.
that just can't afford to do anything
Yeah.
about it, and they're not, like, I'm a renter here and I'm like, no offense, but like I'm not going out of my way to help my landlord sell his house. Like, so
Yeah.
I'm just like, it doesn't come back to benefit me to help him with his property. So I'm not
Mhm.
going out of my way to renovate it. And I think a lot of people do that, and they live in like pretty like areas that just need to be renovated, but they're
Mhm.
not going to spend it themselves, and the landlords are like, meh. But you're right, like there is an aspect of that. It's a bummer. I think
Mhm.
about more like new properties. I see that a lot out here. They look like tin cans popping up, and they're going for like $500,000, and you're just like, I don't understand that. Like, what happened to craftsmanship? And it literally just looks like something like I put some like aluminum siding against like a square storage unit, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
those pop-up ones, like it's
Mhm.
strange to me, and it's a bummer.
Yeah.
But like revitalization and whatnot. But I feel like that's just kind of like going, I don't know, people are, they're just kind of giving up on it, you know?
Mhm.
They're going with like the
Yeah.
quick buck out here, and aesthetically they could do some really cool things out here. Because
Oh, yeah.
nowadays we got to think about building up, not like
Oh,
building out.
yeah. Building out.
Especially if
Yeah.
you live in a city. Like, so when you want to,
Mhm.
what do you want to see building, like being built up? You want something amazing. You want something that looks
Mhm.
cool. You want something that feels good if you have to live there. Like,
Yeah.
I'm really about urban parks, and I want to see some elevated park systems in my city. Like, I
Yeah.
want to build the first high-rise park here. Like, come
Mm.
on, guys, like get with the
Dang.
program. Yeah, I feel like we're like halfway to the Jetsons, but we like gotta catch up. We gotta catch up socially. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But yeah, so I'm all about like that function, baby.
Mhm. That's awesome. I think in terms of like learning about the seats, although I feel like this kind of applies to any design project, like it kind of goes off what we were saying earlier about the subjectivity of everybody's different perspective,
Mhm.
but also like that perspective can change the purpose of it too, you know, like what a city planning committee might want out of a seating area could be a little bit different than what the people who are actually going to use those seats want out of that seating area, or
Mhm.
you know, things like that. I think it's important to kind of like feel out what all those different potential perspectives could be, and try to do the thing that meets as like the highest score for each perspective.
Mhm.
Does that kind of make sense? Okay. Sorry, I got a cat on my lap. Yeah, I don't know, but seats like they serve so many different purposes, which I didn't really think about until I started this project,
Mhm.
then just like looking around and seeing all kinds of different varied seats and purposes for those seats, like beyond just like providing a space to sit. They obviously all kind of do that, but if has a social purpose or a like, I don't know, even like political or ideological purpose, those things all have different weight, and it's important to kind of like look at them all when designing, I think.
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
I do have to get going for my procedure, but
Oh, yeah.
you think that'll affect? I was still send a message to the professor just to clarify why I had to leave early, but
Oh, you're good.
Yeah.
Your name's on the end slide. Yeah.
perfect. Thank you guys.
Participated.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah.
Feel better.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, I think it's interesting because I think it was Rosie, you were talking about like the wing chairs. Like it's very interesting because I never even thought about it. Like I just saw like chairs like that and I was like, oh, that's cool. But like thinking about that, like or what was, I think Kaylee, I don't know, or not, I don't know what Ali, I think her name was, and her collage, like you were talking about like the chairs, like the egg chairs, like are those designed more for like one person rather than just like obviously like a chair I'm sitting in, like you can look around and they take away all of your peripherals, or however you say it. But like they take that stuff away so you can focus on only the front. And I think that's interesting because I've never thought about that. Like it's just like, oh, like that's cool to me, like
Yeah.
And it's funny because like those aren't really made to like move. So it's like you're sitting there and it's covering this space and it's just going to keep doing that. So like your
Mhm.
intention is like you're staring at the fire or something or
Yeah.
whatever. Like that's, I guess
Mhm.
that's why they were always intimidating, because like I need to not feel like, I guess maybe it's just like a weird creepy like mafia thing where it's like I need to see behind me, and like I just like maybe like I don't know, but for me I'm like, oh well, I just learned something about myself because I don't feel comfortable sitting in wingback chairs. Like
Mhm.
funny because I'm definitely like hammocks don't bother me, but I know people that like will not hammock just about their feet off the ground or what, I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it bothers some people, and I'm like I get that, like very different purposes.
Mhm.
It's interesting too, because you kind of have to like, you would almost have to try each thing, like you'd have to know what it feels like to sit in one of those winged chairs in order to like understand that impression of like, kind of like you got blinders on, or
Mhm.
that lack of peripheral stuff. But you wouldn't necessarily know that if you were just like, designing from like kind of a couple steps back and you're just like thinking it through, drawing it out on paper and making it.
Mhm.
Until you like actually like experience that thing, you might not have like a full understanding of like how it's going to function and stuff like that. So I kind of think it speaks to the importance of interacting with the thing that you're designing, like your prototype or whatever, and then kind of touches back on that reiterative design process where you have to go back through the process again, or kind of touch on some of those same points again in order to like get a holistic perspective.
Mhm.
So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind too. I'm probably going to be sitting on my cardboard chair a bunch. I'm trying. Are they supposed to be made out of cardboard? Do you know? Is there like material requirements for these chairs that we're designing? I haven't looked that far ahead.
Honestly, me neither.
Oh, I only
have
saw
no
some
clue.
basics.
Okay.
I think it's just like your ideal seating area. Like it taking into account all of the things that we learned or we did with the matrix,
Mhm.
like sustainability, like cost, environmentally, like taking in what would be your most ideal chair, taking in all the factors we learned from the matrix. I think that's what it is.
Okay. Cool. Let's see. Does anybody have anything on like the most challenging thing of part one?
Well, I think you guys like to kind of briefed it, but where it can be so vague, right? Where you have to
Mhm.
rein it all in. I think that was like the big, like, where do you want to go with it? And like, how narrow do you want to go with it? Or how kind of like open-ended do we want?
So kind of like it's difficult to identify or define your constraints.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's so subjective.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when I was starting the collage, I sat there for a few minutes and I was like, what do I even like do? Like there's so many options. Like
Yeah.
what can I, like what is my brain want to put on this, And it's like that was difficult for me.
Totally. Cool. So did everybody can everybody access that Google Doc? Is it cool
Yeah.
to just like kind of add like little bits and pieces to that for our summary over the next whatever day or two, day and a half?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then we'll kind of just put it all together at the end and submit that.
Yeah. That sounds good to me.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Cool. Real quick, I gotta share oh my gosh, wait, that's not it. Give me just a sec. The thing with all of our names.
Okay. Rosie said her laptop froze and she was trying to unfreeze her Wi-Fi.
Okay, I saw she dropped off of there. All right. Sorry for the delay, everybody.
No, you're good.
Okay, our last slide with all of our names.
All right.
Did I miss anybody? Are we all on here?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yep.
Right on.
That's good.
So yeah, I think that was good. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. It's good.
Yeah.
All right.